I faked being mentally ill to chase a girl who thinks her microwave is spying on her. Alright, so I already know I sound like a walking red flag, but stay with me. I, 22M, ended up voluntarily checking myself into a mental facility because I got weirdly obsessed with this girl I saw once in group therapy. I get how this sounds. Stalker, unhinged, maybe even, dude, get help. Spoiler. I did, sorta. Anyway, here's what happened. So my best friend Kyle, 23M, had been going through a rough patch, classic burnout, anxiety, doomscrolling until 4 a.m., the works. He started seeing a therapist, and they suggested group therapy as a way to open up. He didn't want to go alone and asked if I'd tag along just once for moral support. Me, being the amazing friend I am, and also broke as hell and bored, agreed. Mostly because group therapy sounded like it'd be awkward and kind of funny. Plus he promised me Taco Bell after. We show up at this weird community center with sad-looking plastic chairs arranged in a circle and a giant-ass motivational poster that says, "Your brain is not broken, it's just being extra." Already a vibe. There were like 7 or 8 people there, some talking about intrusive thoughts, one older dude going on about the government hiding fish DNA in bottled water. Honestly, kind of a banger theory, and then, she walked in. Lori. At least, I think her name is Lori. That's what the therapist called her. She never confirmed it herself. She might have even made it up. She had this chaotic pink hair in a bun held together by 2 pencils, wearing an oversized hoodie that said, "Don't talk to me unless you're part of the simulation." No makeup, chipped black nails, socks that didn't match, and Crocs covered in weird pins, like one that just said, "Existence is a scam." She sat down across from me and didn't even say hello. Just kinda sighed, leaned back in her chair, and said to the room, "The microwave's been transmitting my dreams again." Deadass. That was her opener. No context. No follow-up, just that, and nobody blinked. Like everyone in the circle just kinda nodded along, like, "Ah yes, the microwave dreams again, classic." I, on the other hand, was trying not to laugh or look like I was completely fascinated. Which I was. She went on about how she sleeps in the kitchen now to monitor its signals, and how she's stopped watching TV because the laugh tracks were mocking her personally. She was intense, unfiltered, kinda terrifying, and yeah, insanely hot. Now before you judge me, I don't have a crazy girl fetish or whatever. This wasn't about her being damaged or some pick-me fantasy thing. It wasn't even a "I can fix her" vibe. It was more like, I didn't want to fix anything. I just wanted to understand. She talked like the world was built different for her, and honestly, that kinda hit. Kyle leaned in mid-session and whispered, "Dude, you look like you just saw God in Uggs." When the session ended, I tried to talk to her. I wasn't gonna hit on her or anything. I'm not that trash, I just wanted to say something. Anything. So I go, "Hey, cool hoodie. Solid. Classic. Safe." She stared at me. Deadpan. Long pause. Then she goes, "Thanks." My imaginary iguana picked it out. And walked off. And listen. I know this is where most people would go, "Whoa, bullet dodged." But I was standing there thinking, that's the coolest thing anyone's ever said to me. Later in the car, Kyle was like, "Bro. You looked like you were gonna propose." I tried to play it off, but he saw through it. I couldn't stop thinking about her. She was like this hurricane of bizarre energy. And I wanted more. I asked the group leader afterward if Lori came often. They said she was an outpatient, not always consistent, sometimes showed up weekly, sometimes not at all. No contact info, obviously, for privacy reasons. So now I'm sitting there, scheming like a dumbass in love with a chaos goblin. And then the thought hit me. What if I went inside? Like, actually admitted myself. Temporarily. Before you flip. I didn't want to exploit the system or waste anyone's time. I just thought, maybe I could volunteer for a 72-hour hold. It's a thing, right? I googled it. I started looking up mild symptoms that could get me admitted. Again, I didn't want to fake a suicide attempt or anything serious. I just needed to sound off enough to justify observation. So I made a list. Vague paranoia. I feel watched. Sleep issues. Inability to focus. Minor dissociation. Existential dread. Who doesn't have this in 2025? I went in for an evaluation, Gave them a half-true spiel about feeling disconnected from reality and being unsure what thoughts were mine. Which, let's be real, isn't even that fake. Social media's been melting my brain since 2014. The psych nurse looked tired, nodded a lot. And after a 40-minute convo, said they'd recommend short-term observation. Boom. I was in. When I told Kyle, he just stared at me and said, "Dude. What the actual F***K?" He tried to talk me out of it, obviously. Said I was being creepy, impulsive, desperate. And yeah, maybe I was. But also, I was curious. I wanted to see Lori again. I wanted to talk to her. See what her world looked like from the inside. And, I dunno, maybe mine wasn't so different. So yeah, that's how I ended up in a psych ward for 3 days. Next chapter, I'll explain how I met my roommate who thinks he's a toaster, and how Lori responded when she saw me there. Because oh boy, she did not react how I thought she would. So, day 1 inside the ward. Let me just say, TV and movies lie to you. Big time. There's no soft jazz playing, no therapist gently asking, "How do you feel?" No dramatic rainfall while you journal your trauma with a fountain pen. Nah, what I walked into was closer to a youth hostel designed by Kafka during a psychotic break. The ward was gray, not metaphorically, like, literally every wall was some depressing shade of dead pigeon gray. The lighting was either way too bright or completely flickering. It smelled like a mix of bleach, microwaved fish, and abandonment. And the vibe? Imagine if a DMV in a middle school detention room had a baby and left it in a basement. That's the energy. They gave me a hoodie with no drawstrings, elastic pants, a clipboard with rules, and a plastic bracelet that said, "Voluntary observation." Basically, a wristband that screamed, "I did this to myself." Now here's where things got real. They took me to my room. A plain little box with 2 twin beds, 1 tiny barred window, and a metal toilet in the corner. No TV, no phone, no door lock, my new home for 72 hours. And that's when I met Clint. Clint was around my age. Wore his socks inside out. Had eyes like he hadn't slept since Obama's second term. I walked in and said, "Hey," and Clint, without looking up from the floor, said, "Do you toast your bread or does the bread toast you?" I paused, sat on the edge of the bed. "What?" Clint looked me dead in the eye and said, "Real serious, they call me Toaster. Because I make things warm. Sometimes." Bro, I immediately regretted everything. Every decision, every thought, every romantic delusion that got me into this fluorescent hellhole. Clint spent the next hour pacing and whispering to himself about breadcrumbs in The Breadfather, and occasionally farting aggressively, like, weaponized style. I asked the nurse if I could be transferred. She said, "This is voluntary. You can leave if you want." But then she smiled like she knew I wouldn't. Because I couldn't leave yet. I hadn't seen her, Lori. It wasn't until group the next morning that she showed up. I almost didn't recognize her. She looked calmer? Her hair was still pink, still messy, but she was wearing regulation pants and socks with bananas on them. She shuffled in, glanced around the room, and her eyes landed on me. She froze. I smiled and waved awkwardly. She blinked, tilted her head, and then straight up whispered, "You followed me." Not a question, a statement. I went full panic mode. I didn't think she'd realize it. Or if she did, I assumed she'd find it romantic. Cute, even, like in the movies. Spoiler. Lori does not live in the movies. She sat on the other side of the circle and didn't speak the whole session. I tried not to stare, but it was hard, especially when Clint started licking his notebook beside me and humming the Wii theme. When group ended, I tried to catch her in the hallway. "Hey, Lori, right?" She stopped, didn't turn around. "Why are you here?" she asked. I hesitated. I needed help. Like, mentally. She turned slowly, narrowed her eyes. "You're lying, you don't even twitch." I blinked. "What? Real crazies twitch. You smell too normal. You're wearing deodorant. You're not one of us." Okay, wow. Honestly? A little offended. I'd committed to this bit. I hadn't used my phone in 24 hours. I ate bland hospital food without Tabasco. I slept next to Clint and his demonic gas. That's dedication. I tried to recover. "Look, I know it seems weird. But she interrupted. "Don't fall in love with me. I'm already married to the microwave." And then she walked off. I spent the rest of the day spiraling. Not emotionally, like, literally spiraling in the hallway like a weird Beyblade, because physical activity options were limited and I was trying to work off anxiety. Every time I saw Lori, she either avoided eye contact or whispered something to another patient and laughed maniacally. I couldn't tell if she was mocking me or just vibing in her own dimension. Clint, meanwhile, tried to convince me that the window was a portal to the toast realm, and told me I could escape if I proved myself worthy by burning a Pop-Tart. Which, unfortunately, I didn't have. That night, lying in my twin bed listening to Clint snore like a dying chainsaw, I started questioning all my choices. Why the hell did I think this would work? Why did I think romantic psych ward infiltration was a good plan? Was I actually mentally ill, or just chronically down bad? I mean, sure, Lori was hot in a, might set your clothes on fire and laugh, kind of way. But was that enough to voluntarily check myself into a facility where the highlight of the day was pudding cup selection? Maybe this was my low point. Maybe I deserved the Clint experience. The next day at breakfast, she finally sat next to me. I was mid-bite into the driest piece of toast known to man, ironic, considering my roommate, when she plopped down, stared at my tray, and said, "You don't belong here." I shrugged. "Neither do you." She tilted her head. "That's what the walls told me, too." Pause. Then she leaned in, super close, and whispered, "You wanna know a secret?" I nodded like a moron. "This whole place? Fake. It's all a test. A simulation. Everyone's watching us." I tried to laugh it off. "Okay, sure. Like a reality show?" "Exactly," she said, deadly serious. "That camera in the corner? Blinks 3 times every time you lie." I looked at the camera. It blinked. I almost shit myself. She grinned and walked away. I didn't know what to believe anymore. All I knew was, I was still in. She was still weird. And I was still, obsessed? Or maybe infected by the environment. Either way, I wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. Next chapter, things get weirder. She draws me as a demon. We almost escape. I think I fall deeper. Also, Clint gets a sock puppet. That talks. Let me just say this. Art therapy in a psych ward is not the peaceful, healing watercolor fantasy TikTok girls make it out to be. It's not sitting in the sun painting flowers while acoustic guitar plays in the background and someone gently reminds you to breathe. It's more like being locked in a kindergarten craft class where everyone is on acid and half the participants are beefing with invisible entities. So yeah, vibes? Off the charts. It started at 9 a.m. sharp. Nurse Sharon came in way too cheerful for someone working in a building full of unmedicated chaos, clapping her hands like we were about to sing Baby Shark. Alright everyone, time for creative self-expression. We're going to draw what's going on inside today. Remember, there are no wrong answers. Lori walked in 5 minutes late wearing her hoodie inside out and carrying an unopened applesauce cup like it was a bomb. She sat next to me without a word and just stared at the paper in front of her like it owed her money. I whispered, "Hey." She didn't blink. I tried again. "You ready to paint your soul or whatever?" Still nothing. Then, in total silence, she picked up a black crayon and started going to war with the page. I mean, this wasn't drawing. This was battle. No sketching, no outlines, just pure, aggressive motion. Elbow flying, face twitching, tongue slightly out. Everyone else was making sad little rainbows and trees, and she looked like she was trying to conjure a demon onto the page. Meanwhile, I drew a really ugly cat and a slice of pepperoni pizza with a smiley face. It looked like it was dying. The pizza, I mean. Not the cat, but honestly both. Then I looked at Lori's paper. And holy F asterisk 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 ing shit. It was me, kinda. She'd drawn a figure. My face, twisted and long, with eyes dripping black ink and a stretched out mouth. My arms were wires. My tongue turned into a snake that wrapped around my body and strangled a clock. And around it, in jagged, shaky letters, she'd written, "He sees everything. He does not belong here." I didn't know if I should say, "Thank you," or call security. I stared at it. She finally looked up, dead calm, and said, "You like it?" I was 2 seconds from shitting bricks, but I smiled like a lovesick idiot and said, "Yeah. It's really intense." She nodded solemnly, like I just complimented her child's piano recital. Then she handed me the drawing. "Hide it. Don't let the staff see. They'll think I'm escalating again." I didn't even ask what "again" meant. I just folded the paper, shoved it in my waistband like it was contraband, and tried to pretend like it was totally normal to get drawn as a nightmare god by your crush in a psych ward. From that point on, things between us shifted. We weren't dating, that's not a thing in here. But we started orbiting each other. In a weird, codependent, mutual delusion sort of way. We sat together at every meal. She'd give me half her pudding cups if she didn't trust them. I'd give her my pills to examine before taking them. For legal reasons, we didn't trade meds. We just did the old switcheroo and fake swallow tactic. The real psych ward romance move. We started passing each other tiny handwritten notes. Hers said things like, "Don't drink the cranberry juice. It knows too much. Gary is watching me sleep again. My cactus hates Tuesdays. Keep it away from the TV." Mine were more boring, like, "You ever try just breathing through the trauma? You look really cool today." Not like cool, like ethereal cult leader cool. "Do you think Clint is okay?" Or like, dangerously okay? We were, in short, unwell. But cute about it. Now, about Gary. Gary is Clint's sock puppet. He started showing up 2 days ago. Clint had taken one of his hospital socks, drawn eyes on it with a marker he wasn't supposed to have, and declared it his spiritual communication proxy. Gary talked in a British accent. Gary said shit like, "The walls are lying, but the floors tell the truth." And, "The pudding speaks Latin if you listen long enough." Honestly, Gary was kinda wise. Lori hated him. "Gary gives me bad vibes," she whispered. "He blinks when I think things. That's not normal." Then came the plan. It started with a note under my pillow. "Meet me in the east hallway after lights out. Bring no noise." I read it 3 times before it disappeared. Seriously. I left it on the bed for like 10 minutes, came back, gone. That night, after everyone was asleep, except Clint, who whispered to Gary until 2 a.m., I tiptoed out into the hallway in hospital socks and sheer regret. Lori was waiting behind the laundry cart, flashlight in hand, wearing her hoodie backwards and carrying a cactus in a plastic pot. I whispered, "Is the cactus necessary?" She nodded. "He's part of the protocol. If I die, he carries the message." I didn't even question it anymore. I was deep in now. She led me to a vent in the janitor's closet. We removed the cover with a stolen plastic spoon, don't ask, and she went in first. I followed. It was claustrophobic, dusty, and smelled like sadness and rusted Cheetos. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Out," she said. "They think we won't find the exit." But I mapped the building using pudding lids. Naturally. We crawled for what felt like hours, 10 minutes, turned left, hit a dead end. She swore loudly. "They changed the vents. Bastards." We had to backtrack. Me crawling face first into her hoodie butt. Romantic, in a deeply unsexy way. Then we dropped into a storage closet near the lobby. I was about to say, "Holy shit, we might actually make it," when we heard it, going somewhere. We froze. Clint, standing in the corner, holding Gary, who was glowing. Okay, maybe not glowing, but the moonlight hit him at the exact wrong angle. Gary said, "The door opens only for those who have passed the test." I legit screamed. Lori whispered, "Shit, the puppet found us." Clint stepped aside, solemn as a priest. "The toaster chooses when the bread is ready." Then he vanished into the hallway. 10 minutes later, we triggered a motion sensor and got caught AF. Nurse Sharon was furious. They split us up, took my drawing, took my pudding privileges. Lori got locked in a separate wing for further evaluation. She winked at me while they dragged her off and shouted, "Don't trust the ceiling tiles. Some of them are fake." And I just stood there, holding the damn cactus, covered in dust, wondering if I'd hit my lowest point, or if this was somehow the peak. I woke up to silence. Which was weird, because normally I woke up to Clint whispering to Gary about the bread war, or doing push-ups naked under a blanket. But this morning, nothing. No Gary, no Clint, just the hum of hospital lights and a bad feeling crawling up my spine like a spider made of anxiety. I sat up, checked the time. 7:43 a.m. Lori's bed? Empty. Okay, chill. Maybe she was in the bathroom. Maybe she was getting meds. Maybe she was in the rec room talking to the fish tank again. No big deal, except, she never came back. Not that morning, not that afternoon, not even during pudding hour. That's when I started asking around. "Hey, you guys seen Lori?" Blank stares. "Who?" "You know, pink hair, hoodie, talks about microwaves, probably stole a cactus?" More confusion. Dude, are you sure that's a real person? I laughed, nervously. Then I asked a nurse. Hey, do you know where Lori is? She was in my group. Nurse Sharon gave me the kind of look you give someone who just asked if pigeons have Wi-Fi. I think you're confused. We don't have a patient by that name. I froze. What? No, she was in group with me. She did art therapy. She drew a demon version of me. Sharon tilted her head. You've only been here 4 days. I'm pretty sure you've just been with Clint. And Gary. That's when I started to panic. I checked the art room. Her picture, the one she gave me, gone. I checked my mattress. Nothing. I checked the CCTV camera in the hallway. Tried to ask the night nurse if I could see footage. She laughed. This isn't CSI, sweetheart. I found Clint. He was in the rec room, feeding toast to the goldfish and talking about the rebellion. Clint, where's Lori? He paused, blinked. Lori? Yeah, the girl we tried to escape with. The cactus protocol. Gary saw it happen. Clint stared at me for way too long. There's no Lori here, man. I wanted to scream. You helped us. Gary blessed the mission. Clint looked down at Gary. Gary didn't respond. I mean, he's a sock. But still, the silence felt personal. The next day, things got worse. I got pulled into a one-on-one with Dr. Mendez, some upper-tier psych guy who looked like he'd seen too much and slept too little. We sat in a beige room with one chair, one table, and the exact same shitty fake ficus every office in the world seems to have. So, he said, writing nothing down, I hear you're fixated on a patient who doesn't exist. I immediately launched into my defense. She does exist. Her name's Lori. She was in group. She had pink hair and socks with bananas. She drew me as a demon. She had a cactus. We crawled through the vents together. Clint was there. Gary was there. Everyone saw her. Dr. Mendez nodded like he was used to this. Like this was Tuesday for him. Sometimes, when patients feel overwhelmed or disoriented, their minds create coping companions. Bro, no, this wasn't a hallucination. I didn't make up Lori. We shared pudding. She insulted me to my face. She gave me her allergy meds once, just in case the ceiling tried to kill me. I didn't imagine that, right? Then it got creepy. I asked for her file. They said there's no Lori registered. I asked other patients. No one remembered her. Even the cactus disappeared. Like, poof, gone. Out of the room, out of the storage closet, out of the universe. The only thing left was, well, me. Alone. And the doubt. Because what if they were right? What if I'd cracked? What if the girl I fell for never existed and I'd imagined the most chaotic, anti-rom-com manic pixie psych ward dreamgirl in history? Was I the guy who came in here pretending to be crazy, and left actually losing it? I couldn't tell anymore. The worst part? I missed her. Not just in the she's hot and chaotic way. I missed her nonsense, her intensity, her sideways logic, her whispered conspiracies, her goddamn cactus. I started doing laps around the hallway like a ghost on repeat. Every night, I knocked on the wall where she used to knock. 3 slow taps. Nothing. Then, one night, I found a note, slipped under the door. It said, "You're not crazy. They just hate when we leave." No name, no handwriting, just ink, block letters, like it was typed on a typewriter made of paranoia. I stared at it for like 10 minutes straight. Then I laughed, out loud, because no matter what the doctors said, or the nurses, or even Clint, someone knew. She had been real, or at least, real enough to leave a message. And suddenly I didn't feel so insane. Just, initiated. So remember how I started this whole mess by saying I wasn't crazy? Well, I might have been wrong. Or right. Or both. Honestly, at this point, even my delusions are gaslighting me. It's been 2 weeks since Lori disappeared. Or escaped. Or evaporated. Or was never real in the first place. Whatever theory you want to roll with, it's been long enough that I now measure time by putting rotations and how many times Clint resets Gary's third eye. They moved me into a new room with no windows. I asked why. They said I was showing signs of dissociation. I said, maybe it's the lack of sunlight. They said, sounds like projection. I said, sounds like bullshit. They wrote that down. No one talks to me anymore except Clint, who now wears 2 socks on each hand and insists that one is Gary Prime, and the other is Anti-Gary. They argue in Shakespearean English. Loudly. At breakfast. Me? I'm spiraling quietly. With dignity. Well, I was, until she showed up on TikTok. Here's how it went down. I was on the ward iPad, which we get access to for 30 minutes a day as part of digital reintegration. Mostly I use it to watch raccoons doing people things and conspiracy videos about how squirrels are government surveillance drones. And then, out of nowhere, my algorithm delivers me a slap to the face in the form of Lori. There she is. Same pink hair, same unbothered expression, different outfit. Now it's a bikini top, cargo pants, and a wide-brimmed hat with the words, "I am a metaphor," stitched across the front. She's standing on a beach. With the actual cactus. She pans the camera slowly, like some kinda low-budget documentary, and the caption reads, "Pav. You fake madness, fall in love with someone possibly imaginary, and escape with dignity." The audio? That, "I'm not the drama, I am the drama," sound. She sips a coconut with a crazy straw, smiles, then points to the cactus and says, "He's doing great. Cactus green heart, I lost my goddamn mind. I choked so hard I almost threw the iPad. My hands were shaking like I just saw my ex getting engaged to Bigfoot." I replayed the video like 5 times, zoomed in on the cactus like I was trying to read his aura. It was the same one. Same crooked lean, same crack in the pot. That prickly little bastard was thriving. On vacation, while I was in here chewing chalky mood stabilizers and negotiating with nurses over extra graham crackers. I checked her profile, her username, @Truman.Showgirl, her bio. Reality isn't real, my cactus is. Don't follow me unless you've escaped a simulation. 10 videos. All chaotic brilliance. One was her dancing to elevator music outside what looked like a courthouse. Another was just a video of her staring into the sun with the text, "When the walls start to whisper but you whisper back louder." And then, the worst one. A clip of her walking backwards in slow motion, away from a psych facility entrance. She's wearing her hoodie again. Voiceover says, "Pav. You pretend to be insane to escape responsibility, and accidentally meet someone worth losing your mind for." She looks into the camera. Smirks. Winks. I nearly threw up. I didn't know what to feel. Betrayed? Awestruck? Horny? Emotionally compromised? Probably yes to all of the above. I tried to comment. Couldn't. Her account was private. I tried to DM. Denied. You must be mutuals. We weren't. I guess we never were. I sat in the rec room, gripping the iPad like it was a hostage, mumbling, "What the actual fuck," on repeat until Clint asked me if I was speaking in code. I said, "Lori's alive." He said, "So is Toast. Doesn't mean you can trust it." After that, things got weird. Even by psych ward standards. I started getting messages, notes, slipped under my door, taped to the underside of my dinner tray, folded inside my pillowcase. Same blocky, typewriter-style font as before. "You weren't the only one who wasn't supposed to be here. And, the cactus is just a decoy. You were the real plan. And finally, when you're ready, go to the vending machine. Bring silence." Bruh, I couldn't tell if Lori was still here, like hiding somewhere inside the walls, or if this was some long-distance gaslight campaign she launched from the beach. But I followed the last note. I went to the vending machine during lights out. Just stood there. Nothing happened. I pressed A4. Got Doritos. Still, nothing happened. I whispered, "I miss you." The machine made a weird beep and flashed the word, "Good choice." Was it broken? Was it programmed? Was I hallucinating? Yes, probably. Doesn't matter. Because for the first time in weeks, I felt alive again. Now, I'm still here. No idea when, or if, I'll get discharged. No idea if Lori ever really existed. But I saw her. I watched her. On a beach. Laughing. Living. Free. And me? I'm journaling in crayon with a red one I've named Craig. I write every night now. Not because the doctors told me to. But because I want to remember how it felt to believe in something. Even if it was a hallucination in a hoodie. So yeah, AITA for faking psychosis, falling for a possibly imaginary girl, and now being mentally stuck between heartbreak, paranoia, and admiration for a cactus that ghosted me harder than any human ever has. I don't know, but if you're out there, Lori, tell the cactus I said hi. And that I forgive him. Maybe.